Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in this series of Everything About MBA. Today, we are going to talk about specialization. Most importantly, how do you go about choosing the specialization? What question you need to ask yourself before choosing the specialization? And how do you actually go about making a right decision to choose your specialization? Almost in every MBA program of 2 years, the first year is common. In first year, they teach you about everything regarding to the business. For example, you will be covered aspects regarding finance, accounting, marketing, basics of marketing, principles of management, HR related topic, operational related topic, and so on. So that gives you a fundamental understanding about how a business operates. Though to start off the career, you might be involved only in one element of it as an analyst or an entry level management person. It is important for you to understand the business that you are into. How does that business function? What role you play, even if you are a small gear or a small nut and bolt of that engine. Most of the time, students are a little confused about their specialization on which field to go for. And after interacting with more than 36,000 students pan India, I have realized that most of them are confused and they cannot land up on the decisions depending upon the right parameter. There are multiple specializations in MBA, but the common specialization which often most of the college offers are finance, marketing, HR, operations, systems, and IT. These are not just the specialization, but these are also the verticals which almost every organization has. Choosing specialization is like giving a direction to your career. And this, you are standing on a fork. Students often commit mistake by choosing a specialization which are dependent on industry dynamics, where they find there is a scope, where they feel there is an upward streak, they go ahead and choose a specialization. And eventually people realize that is not something that they really wanted to do for or they are passionate for. So the three questions that you need to ask yourself while choosing MBA specialization. Question number one, what are your interest and passion? Your personal interest, personal motivation is extremely important in your career. It's not about which field is doing well. It's not about where you want to do well. That needs to be chosen accordingly. So understanding your interest, understanding the knowledge that you want to learn, the things that interest you, the things that you are really passionate to learn about needs to be shortlisted. I always ask students to make a list of things, the list of industry verticals that fascinates you and the list of the fields that fascinates you. And by having a cross section, you get to understand where you can go ahead and do well. For example, let's say if you're not good with numbers or numbers is something that doesn't excite you, then it's very difficult for you to land up into a career which is into core finance shop, because that is all about numbers, whether it's a corporate finance or whether it is investment banking, hedge fund operation, fund accounting, all of these fields. People need to be good with numbers. When I say need to be good with number, it's not about making the calculations. Those are taken care by the system, but you deal with tons and billions of numbers at the same time, where you need to drive an interpretation. To drive an interpretation, understanding of numbers, variables, value is critical. This is where if you're not interested, if numbers is something is not that interest you, then it is difficult for you to have a career in this field. Example two is, let's say if you're not good with interpersonal skill or teamwork or team management kind of a thing. In this area, you cannot get into account management of digital marketing, or you cannot get into a job of business development or ensuring the project management role, because these kind of roles require you to concentrate on people, their work, their motivation, and building a cohesiveness in it. So if you're not really interested in these fields, if you're not interested and passionate about interpersonal communication and people-based kind of an understanding, then your people-centric leadership skills are low and you need to choose your career accordingly. Question number two that you need to ask yourself is, what are your long-term career goals? Which field is doing right? Which industry is going up? More importantly, then you need to ask yourself is where you want to head yourself. Do you want to be a paper boat in an ocean, or do you want to be a motor boat where you give direction where the boat should be heading? When you know your long-term career goals, when you have a clarity about your long-term goals, which exercise that you can do with your mentors to try and understand what is it that you are looking at from your life, it becomes far easier for you to choose a right MBA program and the right MBA specialization as well. For example, let's say if you have 100% sure that over the period of time, let's say 5 years, 10 years, you want to get into an entrepreneurship, then you need to understand which is the area which you need to work upon it first. Though as an entrepreneur, you need to know everything about the business, but there are certain areas where you have expertise into, where you have specialization. When you are setting a long-term career goal, it is very important to sink it in your purpose that you are looking forward to do in life. What are those things that you can do long term? What are those things that you can do probably without offering great money? If you get clarity on those areas, it is easier to filter down a lot of options and narrow it down and choose one career path for yourself. Many students ask me, sir, it's a progressive mechanism, and over the period of time, we might realize that this is not what we are looking at and you would like to change it. Yes, changing is definitely possible. There is nothing impossible as such, but it is always better to choose a direction where you can put in your time, energy, efforts for at least 5, 8 or 10 years so that you can test the real success of that particular field. The third thing is, what are the job aspects of that specialization? Any field you get into has multiple areas. It requires multiple people with multiple expertise. You need to understand which is that area of expertise you are willing to work into. Let me give you an example. Let's say if you are willing to pursue marketing, MBA in marketing, and you have interest and inclination towards digital marketing. Now, when we talk about digital marketing, it has different skill sets. Different type of people cohesively work together as a team and deliver output. There are profiles where you require account management, where you ensure that the team is working together at the same time the client is happy. So you are technically a bridge between them. This requires a lot of patience, perseverance, soft-spoken attitude. At the same time, you need to be very good with people. If you are someone who is very harsh with people, doesn't like to interact much for a longer conversation, or cannot handle the discrepancies shown by the people or their nakhras in short, then you won't be able to do good in this job. On broader level, there are two types of people who generally like to work for. I call them as football player and I call them as table tennis player. Football is the game where you cannot make a good career if you cannot work with team or with cohesion, right? Which means what? The ball needs to be passed on every time and again, and you have to ensure that you are making a goal or you are helping someone to achieve that particular goal by actually being a part of a team player. It is not something that can be played fast, or it is not something that only one person can play. On the other part, you have table tennis, where you are not required for any team building. Your success doesn't depend upon anyone. Your success only depends upon you. How much efforts you put in, how much learning curve you get into, what kind of new shots you learn to play, so on and so forth. So it's all about you. Now in job also, there are primarily these two type of working culture that you will observe. There are certain job which requires you, your computer, and 100% your concentration, where your success, your effort is not dependent on anyone else. You, your project, your client, and your dedication towards the work. That's it. Some people perform extremely good in this kind of an environment or this kind of job roles. On the other hand, football players find this kind of stuff boring. They feel that it has to be teamwork. So the ball needs to be passed on. The task is done by multiple players. The task is done by people who are involved in different departments. They do this task together. A person who is responsible to sort of compile these kind of things and then present it. So there are different type of personalities. You have to understand what type of personality you are. I am less of a team player, like quite less of a team player and more of an individual player. Like I like to bet on myself. I like to go extra mile, and I generally like that the success parameters and the things are dependent on me. So I am a table tennis player. Not only for this example, but I truly play that. So that reflects in it. So understanding of the personality, understanding of which area, which job role you want to work into, and what type of job, what type of action is demanded is very crucial for you to understand. If you go wrong in choosing your specialization, if your specialization, depending upon what specialization your friend has taken, If your MBA specialization depend upon the professor who has taught good about one subject, if you take a decision depending upon what are only the industry dynamics or which career there is more opportunities into, then you are finished in long term. You are finished in long term. You need to understand that it's all about those three things that I've mentioned. Identify your interest and passion, what are the long-term career goals, and third, what is the job demanding for, what kind of personality the job is demanding for. If you genuinely take efforts in answering these three questions for yourself, you will be able to choose a better specialization. A profound decision can be taken towards it, and your career can go in a direction which you want to, and not what the ocean wants to take that boat in direction. So always try to be a motor boat and don't try to be a paper boat जहाँ पे हवा आई वहाँ निकल जाओगे, फिर जिंदगी में सिर्फ पछताओगे. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure this content has added a lot of value to you, given you certain clarity about how to go about choosing the right specialization. Please share this video with your friends so that they also can benefit from this free content that is available. I have given a link in the description box where you can download a PDF and read more and more stuff about this topics of choosing the specialization, so that you can have a better understanding before going and taking the decision. And more importantly, keep reminding yourself, don't do MBA, become one. This is Prathamesh Veling signing off until we meet next.